name's Julia, I'm an archivist and museum curator, which means I have the pleasure of collecting, documenting, and preserving Waffle House history, and I'm getting to share it with you guys today. We're going to start our story off with our founders, how they started Waffle House, give you guys plenty of time to answer any of your questions. You guys can come up on the counter afterwards and explore a little bit, and then next door is our exhibits area. We have old menus, old uniforms, a scavenger hunt, some prizes, all kinds of fun stuff as well. You're also welcome to take a hat or a menu at the table over there as well. So our story starts today with our founders. I like to start with Tom Fortner. He was born and raised here in Georgia, grew up here in Avondale Estates, and was a lawyer when World War II broke out. He went into military service up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and worked on military security and intelligence with the Manhattan Project. So had a pretty important job. Don't know a ton about what he did. But after the war, he came back home and decided he didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. I don't blame him. And went into his family's real estate business here in Avondale Estates. Our other founder is Joe Rogers Sr. Joe grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, outside of Memphis. He also went into military service a little early. He might have said he was 18, but really he was 16. I guess you could do that back then. And he went into military service in Mississippi. He was a B-24 bomber pilot trainer, which means he also had a very important job during the war. He would teach cadets to fly those planes. Those cadets would then get sent over to Europe. After the war, Joe went back home, was looking around, deciding what he wanted to do with the rest of his life, and he settled on soda distribution. He wanted to pick a soda brand to partner with, pitch that soda brand to a restaurant, which would kind of distribute the soda for him, and he could sit back and relax. But he picked Coca-Cola. Has anyone heard of Coca-Cola? You can see where this is going then. So he picked Coca-Cola. I'm not sure if he thought it was better than Coke or Pepsi. Not quite sure there. But he wanted to pitch it to a restaurant, and conveniently for him, right there in Memphis was the headquarters of a pretty big restaurant at the time called Waffle House. He also had kind of an in with one of their founders. It was rumored that the founder of Waffle House, Fred Smith, Fred's family, Joe's family, and the Elvis Presley family all kind of knew each other in that area, so he was able to kind of get in with this big client. He marches up to Fred's office, lays out his great big business plan for Coca-Cola, and Fred says, absolutely not. But I like you, so would you like to come work for Waffle House? Now, if you haven't heard of Waffle House before, I have this lovely picture here that you guys can pass around. So they were a little interesting for the 40s and 50s. They were a 24-hour Dutch colonial style sandwich shop. So they were very cute, looked like little houses out front, patches of grass, flower boxes, and when you went inside, it was high counter service only and completely stainless steel, if that looks familiar. So Joe starts to learn the 24-hour restaurant business. He gets to be pretty good, and eventually he gets promoted to regional manager of Waffle House Southeast Division. With the Southeast hub being here in Atlanta, he packs up everything in Tennessee and moves on down here. Now he's got his car, he's got his new job. What else might you need when you move to a new city? A house. And who is down here selling and buying real estate in the Atlanta area is Tom. So that is how they meet. Tom not only sells him a house, he sells him the house next to his house. And so they become neighbors. Both of their homes are still standing about a mile or two down the road. And they get to become pretty close friends. They're talking business on the weekends. And eventually, Tom starts to pester Joe. Tom wants Joe to put a Waffle House restaurant here in Avondale Estates. And Joe kind of brushes him off. You know, this isn't really the right area for a Waffle House. You know, Waffle House like to be in big cities. They like to have a lot of customers, which makes sense, a lot of people around. And down here, it was pretty much farmland in the 40s and 50s. Not a lot going on, especially not all of this that is happening today. So Tom is persistent though, and Joe says, all right, if you find me a good piece of land, I will go 50-50 with you, and we will start our own restaurant. So Tom's brother, who is also in the family business, owned this piece of land, and they built just this half of the building right here, and Labor Day 1955, now 70 years later, Waffle House opened for the very first time, which was pretty exciting. You know, Tom and Joe did not quit their day jobs at first. They thought maybe this could be more of a side business, send the kid to college with the profit. and that would be that. But 3 months in, Joe got a call from his bosses over at Waffle House, and they promoted him to vice president and wanted to ship him back to Memphis. And Joe decided to go. At this point, Waffle House is only 3 months old. Joe has a young family to support. Just kind of made sense. Waffle House had over 200 locations across the Southeast. Another reason that Joe really wanted to continue working at Waffle House is he was working with that owner, Fred Smith, on employee ownership opportunities. He believed that he was helping build up that business and he wanted a stake in that. But things kind of fell apart when Fred Smith passes away unexpectedly. One of the other founders also passes away. No one really wants the business. Fred Smith Jr. is more interested in parcel service apparently because he goes on to found FedEx, which is
wow.
There's that connection there. So people really start jumping ship. The business starts to go to the bank. Joe is one of those people who jumped ship. He comes back to Waffle House 5 years later. But during those 5 years, he's still very much in contact with Tom at this point. He's helping him out, whenever he's in town on business, giving him advice and things like that. And Tom does pretty well in those 5 years. 2 years after this location was opened in 1957, Tom was looking around for Waffle House number 2. And he found a restaurant in Midtown on 10th and Peach Street, I believe, called the Wagon Wheel. And he wanted to transform it into a Waffle House. The owner of the Wagon Wheel at this time was actually a Waffle House retiree, Randolph Chambers. He agreed on 2 conditions to turn it into a Waffle House. 1, he wanted to come on and help run it, which I'm sure Tom loved. And 2, they had to keep their most lovely, most amazing, friendliest waitress that they had, Miss Lucy Shelton. Miss Lucy Shelton comes on board with us in 1957, and she does not retire until 2004. And she's one of our longest standing hourly associates with over 47 years of service. And she's kind of who we modeled our customer service tactics off of. She knew all the little quirks in your order, just gave you great service every single time, knew all your kids, grandkids, all things like that as well. This particular location was a Waffle House until the early 70s, with the highways getting built, road changes. We just decided to close down and open elsewhere. So after that, it became a Chinese restaurant, it became a sandwich shop. But in the early 2000s, right before our 50th anniversary, we thought, hey, we're kind of a big deal now. We should come back to our roots. So we came back and bought the property and the business next door to turn it into a museum. This is technically a complete recreation of what we looked like when we first opened. We used our blueprints, which are on the wall over there, the original blueprints, as well as our founders' memories to kind of recreate what we looked like, even down to how many stools we have. Technically floors, the only thing that's original, but it's not too bad for 70 years. We have a lot of our original prices here on the wall up here, which I know look a little different than they do today as well, with our most expensive item on the menu being the filet mignon dinner for $1.50. Of course, we have sold Coca-Cola since day one. We have a handshake agreement with them, and that was one of the 3 items that we did not make from scratch. So we didn't make the Heinz ketchup either, or the Post Toasty cereal in the pie box over there. Pretty much everything at this location on the menu here was made from scratch. We were trimming our own meats, juicing our own oranges for orange juice, things like that. Both our hash browns and our pies actually took 2 days to make at this point. So a lot of prep work went back into our food back then. We have our commissary in the back that you guys can go and visit in a little bit and see kind of how we used to prep a lot of our food. A lot of our early locations actually didn't have designated back rooms for us to prep food back there. So this particular location actually served the first 10 or so locations, making quite a lot of food. And if each location served maybe 10 whole pies a day, if they took 2 days to make, that's a lot of food back then, back in that area. During the 1960s is when we kind of started to grow for the very first time. When Joe comes back to Waffle House for good, he actually brings on his old boss, Curtis Davis, to start our franchising department. And that's really when we start to grow into South Carolina, Alabama, Florida for the very first time. Now Joe kind of modeled what Waffle House was after Waffle House. That's kind of what he wasn't really that kind of nature, that wasn't really in fast food restaurants back then. So it was actually very helpful that he had a lot of people who knew the restaurant business, knew kind of the standards that he was using at Waffle House, was able to grow in that area quite a bit. We go from just 4 locations in 1960 to 62 locations 10 years later. So quite a lot of growth there. But currently we have over 2,000 locations. We're very close to 2,100 locations open right now. We are in 25 states. We go as far west as Arizona, and then we are as far north as Ohio, Pennsylvania area as well. So we've grown quite a bit in our 70 years. Lots happened since then. But for now, I think we'll let you guys ask me any questions you guys have. Happy to answer.
So what's the breakdown between the franchisees versus the company stores?
So back in the 70s, we really were about half and half, but some of our franchisees weren't necessarily doing the Waffle House way standards. And so as we've grown throughout the years, we're now only about 95% company owned.
Is that right?
Yeah, we just kind of bought back over the years.
And so you have to vet the people that franchisees and they have a dollar kind of standard there. They have to have so much money to start.
We actually don't do any new franchisees right now. I don't think we've gotten new franchisees since maybe 2000.
It's been a while.
Been quite a while.
But even when we were adding new franchisees, it wasn't financially based. Like our view is we don't need people with money. We need people that want to run restaurants. So if you came to us and want to be a franchisee, we'd say, well, do you want to work on Christmas Day? Do we work on third shift on New Year's Eve? If you don't, if you come and say, I've got $5 million, I want to buy a franchise, we'd say, no, thank you. We need people to operate the restaurant.
Tried to do that. Snoop Dogg's wanted to do that. California.
Phil Mickelson wanted to do it years ago. Yeah, we just.
No, we're good.
So
Thank
do
you.
you take your employees, like your really good employees, and promote them?
Yeah, so we typically, so if you want to be a franchisee, you have to work through us first. So you typically would start out running 1 restaurant, maybe then you get promoted, you run 3 restaurants, you run 9 restaurants. You raise your hand and say, I want to be a franchisee, and then if we approve you for a market, then we would put you in that market.
Yeah. What is, like I know, so I'm from Mississippi, so you said Pennsylvania and you have restaurants, and I'm sure the menu is not the same.
It's the same everywhere.
It is the
Different,
same.
different prices. So we have,
Right.
so that's one of my jobs is managing our pricing across our system.
Okay.
We have 16 different menu price points
Right,
by market.
right, of course.
But it's all the exact same menu layout, same items. We don't do anything differently. There's
Okay.
nothing regional that we
So
do different.
everywhere has the all-star breakfast.
Correct.
No, Sarah. That's Sarah.
Why are the eggs in a basket?
Oh.
That's for speed.
Okay.
So, yeah, you
Why
can-
eggs in baskets?
So I can answer this, if they're not already, like fresh eggs, if they're not, if you don't wash the eggs and put them in the refrigerator.
They can sit out
They
for-
can sit out, so.
Yeah.
We set up 4 hours, so we
Yeah.
time stamp, mark them.
There's usually
So the
a
health
little
department
dates
is okay with
in
it.
our locations.
And then we cook them with it. So we go through, I think we go through about 10 cases of eggs. A case of eggs is 30 dozen eggs, so in a week. So in a given day, we're using more than 30 dozen eggs per restaurant per day. We use 25 million dozen eggs a year.
So so the eggs come inside of the container, they take them out and fill up a basket, and then they just pull the basket out and sit
You know, we
there
keep
for-
everything in the refrigerator.
for
We pull
access.
one basket at a time.
Okay,
Cook those.
and then you just go get the next basket.
Correct.
I just always wondered, like, why they got the eggs in
Just go right
baskets?
there.
Okay, so you just grab and go.
Yep.
Okay.
So the Anthony Bourdain section, did you guys like that or didn't like it?
Yeah.
You liked it?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the celebrity around Waffle House? That's always been
Yeah, there's
interesting,
no,
right?
you know, the Anthony Bourdain one happened in around, I don't know, it's probably 2005, 8, somewhere around there. If none of y'all know, so Anthony Bourdain is a famous chef, and he went to one of our restaurants down on Far Road in Buckhead with a guy named Sean Brock, who's another kind of celebrity restaurant. They went late night, they'd been out, they'd had a few cocktails, and they videotaped this thing, and Anthony Bourdain had never been to our restaurant. And so Sean Brock kind of walks him through, here's what I get, here's what's phenomenal, and he walked him through it. He got him a pecan waffle, and I don't remember what else he got, but he went through this.
Salad with Thousand Island.
Yeah. And so he ordered him all these things, and the way to order it exactly, what to put on it and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, then Anthony Bourdain was kind of interviewed about his experience. And he described our restaurant as better than the French Laundry, which is notorious, like one of the top restaurants in the country. And
Yes.
Bourdain described us as being better than the French Laundry. So it's great. And we get a lot of celebrity stuff from, musicians to actors to athletes that spend a lot of time in our restaurants.
I'm gonna start a picture wall.
We don't, interesting, you've probably never seen an advertisement from us. We don't advertise, we don't spend money on marketing, we don't do.
Tin Cup, that was another good one, Tin Cup.
We've done a number of movies, we've probably done, 8 or 10 movies over the years. Yeah, we did The Mule with, so I got to meet Clint Eastwood when even when The Mule, part of The Mule was done here in town, so it was interesting.
And every rapper films at the Waffle House.
A lot of rappers, a lot of singers,
Yep.
a lot of athletes.
Place to be after you leave the club.
When egg prices went up, how did you guys adjust?
So I'm a math guy, so I was Georgia Tech, so as I said, we buy 25 million dozen eggs. It's easier to think in round numbers of dozens. And so historically, before the run up in eggs, they averaged around $1.80 a dozen. And then we buy them a little bit below market. That's the market, was about $1.80. When they ran up to like almost $8.79 a dozen. So you do some quick math and you say, if they ran up $6 a dozen and I buy 25 million dozen eggs a year, it's $150 million. Well, we can't sustain that kind of, so we ended up, and some people just raise their menus. They say, well, I'm just gonna raise my menu and pay for it. We chose to do a surcharge to offset the price increase, but when the eggs started coming back down, they only came down in the $3 to $4 range, so still like double the 5-year average. We pulled the surcharge out, so we're just gonna eat the difference. But we did do an egg surcharge, and it lasted, I don't know, 2 months maybe, a couple of months.
What was the impact on the bottom line?
The impact on the bottom, so ultimately, the cost of eggs, I think we say cost us about $60 million, and we recouped about $40 million of that through the egg surcharge. So we still lost $20 million just due to the run up in prices.
Have y'all ever thought about this in your own chicken farm?
Yeah, I don't. That's a tough business to make money in. I mean, think about it. So right now, recently the egg market has come back down. In the last 3 months, the egg market was down in the 70-something cents. So half of the 5-year average before that. And now it's starting to run up a little bit, but that's a tough business to make money in as well. So no, I don't think we want to vertically integrate. We just try to focus on what we do, and we've gotten distracted by it or asked to do a lot of things over the years, and we're like, we just want to cook bacon and eggs and take care of customers, and the other things we'll let. So initially, we used to own our own jukeboxes way back in the day, and then we divested that business and said we don't want to be in the jukebox business. We want to be in the serving customers business, and so that's a distraction. So we sold that to somebody, and we still have the jukeboxes and have a great relationship with them. But we just try to focus on. We used to do self-distribution of our food, so we had a commissary, and we had trucks, and we delivered food to restaurants. And again, we were like, we don't want to be in the distribution business. We want to be in the restaurant business. So we got out of that, and now we have one distributor that we deal with.
You guys are privately owned?
We're privately owned, yes. Privately owned.
I've eaten all over the world, just about 3 different continents. This is my favorite restaurant. It is. I mean, I've been in some places you read about.
We're at the home of it.
But this, you don't know how exciting this is for me.
I don't know if you guys have seen any of the stuff, around the World Cup and some of the people that have come in from Europe and other countries
they love Waffle
that have been
House.
blown away by Waffle House. There's a few unique things they've seen. They've seen Buc-ee's and they've seen places like that, but they rave about Waffle House and just the experience and the value that we provide on the menu and things.
But of course, do you have ranch?
We do have ranch. But the funny thing is, we don't, we used to have salads years and years ago, and so that's why we had ranch dressing. But the reality is, when you come to Waffle House, you don't want salad. And if you ask them, if you surveyed them and said, would you come to Waffle House more often if we had salads or more healthy stuff, they'd say, oh yeah, absolutely. And then come here, and they smell bacon and eggs cooking, and they don't order the salad, they get the bacon and eggs. So I don't know why we still have ranch, because we'll make you a salad, because we have lettuce that we'll put on sandwiches, and we have tomatoes, and we can make you a salad, but not many people. Yeah. So that's really the only reason we have ranch.
So Rhonda?
So what's the relationship between natural disasters and Waffle House?
So historically, the first hurricane response really started in the early 2000s. I think it might have been Hurricane Hugo was the first one that we kind of did some response.
Yes, we did. We actually, so all of our markets in the 60s and 70s were franchised along the coast. So we had just bought back some restaurants in Charleston, and that was when Hurricane Hugo happened in
Yep.
'89. that
Yeah,
was our
so
first-
back then, all of Florida, all the peninsula of Florida
Everything
was
was
franchise market, Virginia was franchise market, the
all the
coast of North
Texas,
Carolina.
Mississippi, all that.
But so, then we just decided, I guess, to respond, and at the end of the day, we think of it as, I don't think we make money. We throw a lot of money and resources to respond to natural disasters, but our view is the communities need our help, that we serve our customers and our associates need help. They need to work, they need to pay their bills, and so we just think it's the right thing to do. So historically, most companies that are franchise-based, the franchisees don't really want to get out and work hard when times are tough. And times are tough during a hurricane. You might not have power, you might not have water, you have all kinds of things. Infrastructure, getting food to the restaurants, getting associates to the restaurants is difficult. So a lot of those companies just shut their doors and they wait for things to get better for a few weeks. Well, we come in after a storm and open as quickly as we can. And we'll have lines out the door, and we have multiple different limited menus where we'll skinny down what we will serve just to make it simpler. If you think about it, we've had times when we serve nothing but hamburgers and chicken sandwiches. You walk in the door and that's the question: you want a hamburger or you want a chicken sandwich? Hamburger or chicken sandwich? And that's because if you're not complicated on what you cook at the grill, you can load up one side of the grill with burgers and load up one side of the grill with hash browns, and you can serve that all day long. But if you have our full menu and you want an omelet and you want a waffle and you want a BLT and you want a Texas cheesesteak, it complicates it and slows things down. And when you have a line of 60 people out the door, you just got to get stuff done as fast as possible. So.
Do you guys have like a manual or a training process? Because you guys do such a good job.
We do have a storm response playbook that we give to all the operations teams, and they learn that way. But at the end of the day, we are what's called a homegrown culture. So everyone in the operations side of business that runs restaurants starts out running one restaurant. And then if you do well, you can run 3 restaurants, and then if you do well, you might could run 9 and 27. It's kind of this hierarchical management structure. But if you came to us and you said, hey, I work for McDonald's and I ran 100 McDonald's restaurants, I want to come be a big shot with you, we'd go, okay, well, you can become a manager trainee, and if you do well, then we'll check you into a restaurant. If you do well, then you'll move up through the chain. So everybody, even up to our chief operating officer, started running one restaurant. And so they all kind of know how to run restaurants and how to do things during storms because they've lived it. They're not just executives that have come in.
Right.
So
You kind of like, that's kind of the model that Publix uses too.
Yeah.
They promote from within, you have to start at the bottom. Like, it's very rare, I would think, that someone from Kroger could go be a manager.
Right,
at Publix.
right.
They don't do that.
And it's, the restaurant business is difficult, but the 24/7, 365 restaurant business is even more difficult. And so you've got to get the right culture fits that can do that.
So my question is, what happened that you guys no longer take call-in orders? Like, you can't call something in, you have to come in.
So one of the challenges you can think about, people at the corporate office tend to work in restaurants. We work at least one shift a year. I work a few more than that. I work Christmas Day and do other things. But if I remember standing there and the phone rings, you've been at a restaurant on a busy Saturday morning, right?
Yep.
Like, you can't hear. You can answer the phone and someone wants to give you an order. You can't hear, and if you get it, a lot of times you get the order wrong, and so it just is it's a bad customer service experience.
Okay.
And we really like to focus on our dine-in customers primarily. We do have a lot of to-go business, but we like to focus on taking care of our customers in the restaurants, and so if it's distracting from that experience in the restaurant, we don't like to do it. So we added an app so you can order online rather than the phone, but the phone makes it difficult. Yeah.
And that's the online ordering system disables the phone.
I couldn't hear you again. Say
The
that.
online ordering system, I think, disables the phone lines.
Okay, yeah, because I remember, like, there was a time I could call in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna come get this All-Star. And then all of a sudden I called in and she was like, oh, baby, you can't call it in. You either got to do it online or come in. I was like, oh,
I don't even think we have phones in the restaurants anymore.
Yeah, and
That's
that
good.
helps your bottom line too, because if you're having to remake orders all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you just don't want to disappoint customers when you get the order wrong because you thought they said
Right.
grits with cheese and they didn't say grits with
Not only
cheese.
does that help your materials or whatever I'm trying to say, but it also helps keep that customer, because I've come to Waffle House 3 times and 3 times I've got my order wrong. That's it. I ain't going back to that Waffle House. So that keeps, I think that is.
Well, and for a long time, you know, we're one of the few brands that has kind of fought off the third-party delivery stuff for a long time. So think about
Yeah.
the DoorDashes and the Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Now, we have a little of that now, we started expanding it, but the same deal, if you think about it, there's a certain capacity at the grill to cook for a certain number of customers.
Right.
Our typical restaurant is 33 to 41 seats, and that's what the grill can support a full restaurant.
Yeah.
But if the restaurant's full, and I've got 22 people ordering to go to get delivered, it slows things down and affects the experience for the people in the restaurants.
I think, you know, Waffle House is a diner, that's part of the experience, so I think that all plays together well.
But you think about it, so our to-go business is about 25% of our total business,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
And you guys have like a seat time too, right? Like you have the target, we want you to.
I wouldn't say we want to get you, we would like 20-minute table turns.
That's what it is.
But like if you want to sit around and linger and drink
Yeah.
coffee, we're not gonna kick you out, but we want to deliver food as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we think about it in terms of table turns like a fast food restaurant,
Yeah.
not like a typical sit-down restaurant.
I just thought the lady was lying when she said, corporate said we can't do it anymore. I was like, girl, bye. So that's why I'm checked. So when I go back, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I spoke to him. I really did.
So I went straight to the corporate.
I know, I'm like, I was at the Waffle House. I checked.
What's the relationship, or is there a relationship with Waffle House?
There's not, you know, Huddle House was started maybe a few years after Waffle House, and they patterned themselves after. I don't know if it's a former Waffle House person that
So
started it.
I researched this recently because I kept getting questions about it. Huddle House was started by John Sparks, I believe, in 1964. It's about 9 years after us, but here in Decatur. And I looked him up, and he actually used to work for the hotel and restaurant supply company. And back when we first starting, we used that company. So my guess is I think he saw us start to take off, and maybe decided to use that business model as well.
So he's the generic, or the Waffle House.
Yes.
But it's
yes.
interesting to me because they're similar conceptually, kind of how the
Yeah.
works. But I think how they approach the business, they tend to go small towns. They're like, if you look in Atlanta, I think I know where there's maybe 2 or 3 Huddle Houses in the Atlanta market. Now we have 200 plus in the Atlanta market as we define it.
Some on the same block.
But you know, they're in smaller towns where they're kind of the only game in town in a lot of places. We don't really compete head to head in a lot of areas with those guys.
Where I live in Jonesboro, there are literally 3 Waffle Houses within 5 minutes of my home.
Yeah.
Like exit 216, exit 218, and exit 212.
Well, I think we think of it as we know how to operate the restaurants the size that we have. And so we've had bigger restaurants. You know, we've been around 7 years. We've had restaurants with 60 seats in them. But we operate them differently. We have to staff them differently. The grills it. So we like doing things the same way everywhere. So that's why we've gotten to that sweet spot of 33 to 41 seats is what we can comfortably do. We know how to staff it. We know how it's set up. And so if there's enough business in a given market for more than that demand, then we just put another restaurant. And if we have 2 restaurants, then our competitor can't be in that spot because we're in that spot too. And so we've always said, I don't know that we're the smartest restaurant operators, but we kind of do what we do, and it's just bacon and eggs.
It works.
I have a question.
How about shutdown decisions? When did you decide, because obviously you have to shut down some locations, but is it a revenue factor, or is it neighborhood deteriorates, or?
Yeah, for the most part, we don't shut restaurants down for poor performance. I mean, you see a lot of other brands that, you know, I'm gonna close the lowest 10% of my restaurants. I think our view is, if I put a really good manager in a given, like if I take a manager out of a great performing restaurant and put him in a poor performing restaurant, you know what happens? This restaurant starts performing well. They hire the right kind of people, they take care of their customers, and it does well. So when we close, it's generally because there might be a DOT taking, or it might be because they added a median and it cuts off our access, or it might be because we happen to have a lease location and we like to purchase everything that we have, but we do have a number of leases, and so sometimes over time we either try to buy out a lease or we build down the street where we can buy and own the land in the building. So we don't, we built 50 restaurants last year. I think we closed 2. But in a given year, we'll close between 5 and 10, just depends on, but it's not because we don't like that location. Sometimes it's, yeah, the town or the area has grown that on that side of the interstate or whatever, we move sometimes like that.
What's your future growth look like in terms of stores?
So we're planning on building 75 stores in our fiscal year is kind of June through May. So we just started our new fiscal year. We're going to build about 75 stores this year. But in the footprint that we're already in, we don't really have a desire to go to new markets necessarily. I mean, we'll eventually get to new markets, but we have so much room for growth. So out of our 2,100 restaurants, we have over 400 in Georgia. We have less than 200 in the state of Texas. You know, we have 200 plus in Atlanta. We have, I don't know, 100 in Dallas-Fort Worth, which is similar size. We have 40 in Houston. So we have huge growth markets and growth opportunities. We have huge growth opportunities in Florida. We're continuing to build up there. We're continuing to build in Atlanta. So we're just going to keep in the footprint we're in, just keep slowly moving out and take over the world.
There you go.
So if you're looking at 75 stores, and I'm kind of doing some rough math on how many people that is, I wondered if you had, I'm from up north, I'm from Pennsylvania, so when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about Wawa. Do you do something like a Waffle House Institute to get people who are maybe great employees to that next level where they may or may not have exactly had in-store experience to be able to onboard them for a new store if they're willing to relocate?
So I would say this, so in terms of if you have experience with Waffle House, it's most likely a restaurant, right? So we have 45,000 employees. We have 300 or 400 in our corporate office, kind of on our support team. Everybody else works in a restaurant in some capacity. They're an hourly, they're a salesperson, they're a grill operator, they're a door core, or they're in management. We hire people to run restaurants both out of college. We hire 4-year degree folks, and we also hire people from restaurants. If you're an hourly associate and you started working with us at 16 and you waited tables for 3 years and you became a grill operator and we think you have potential to be a management, then we have a path to take you through the management training program and get you checked into management. So probably half of our managers have come from kind of our hourly ranks.
But is it like a centralized location? So you just do it like in-house?
Yeah, we train them all.
Oh, okay.
We have 2,100 training facilities across the country.
Oh,
So
wow.
That's the easiest thing to do. Now we do have some stuff that we do at the corporate office. We have what's called Waffle House University. So when somebody gets checked in and gets trained to become in management, before they get checked in to run a store, they come to the corporate office for what's called Waffle House University. And it's less than a week, but you learn other things. You learn how to run a restaurant working in the restaurant where you're working in the local market, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or wherever you are. But you come to the office for learning things about leadership and legal issues and hiring and training and other things that you might not necessarily learn when you're working under the tutelage of the management team in the local market.
My question is about staffing. I know with like wait staff, what wage are they paid? Are they paid? Do they have benefits? Are they paid hourly wage? Do they work mostly for tips? Because the restaurant industry is kind of changing in some areas. How that works?
So all of our hourly associates have the opportunity to have benefits, have health care. All of our associates in our company are eligible to buy our stock, so we're privately held. Yeah, but Julie is a stockholder, I'm a stockholder, the salesperson at 1000 down the street could be a stockholder. Everyone can contribute up to 10% of their compensation and buy our company stock. And we do have benefits. In terms of pay, most of the people that work in the restaurants are paid hourly. So grill operators are paid a certain wage. Salespeople are paid what's called a cash wage, or it's a tipped wage, and then they get tips on top of that. And that really varies by state, and different states have different requirements. Like the state of Florida is ultimately going to go to where the minimum wage in the state of Florida will be $15 an hour. The minimum cash wage is tagged to that, $3 less. So it'll be $12 an hour. So if you're a salesperson in Florida, you'll ultimately make $12 an hour plus tips. In other states, the national wage, minimum wages are $7.25 and $2.13. So we had a ramp up plan for our grill operators started more than 5 years ago, where we looked at what they were making and we basically doubled their compensation over the last 5 years to where they're making this.
Well, because I always when I go to Waffle House or something like that, I always give like a really big tip, because I feel like they work really hard and they're running around and it's very fast paced. So.
But we're also now on a journey with our salespeople to ramp their cash wage up. But the reality is, they still make far more on their tip.
I was going to ask a question about that.
Yeah.
So if they don't make how does that go with labor laws?
So you're required to pay people minimum wage, right? And so what happens is, and so if I raise my hand and say I didn't make minimum wage because my tips didn't account for, so round numbers, if I was paid $4 an hour in cash wage and I didn't make at least $3 an hour times the number of hours I worked, then I can raise my hand and say I didn't make it, and you can fill out a tip log and show what you made, and we'll pay you the difference. We're required, the law requires you to pay a minimum wage. Now the reality is, they all make minimum wage, and you know, I don't know that they really necessarily declare all their tips. It's hard, it's hard. You can't really hold them accountable for cash tips because you don't know what they got. Now, a lot of our credit cards are 70% of our business, and we know exactly what you got tipped on a credit card. So we do, you know, have to report that.
So I have a question. When someone gets, let's say somebody gets a $10,000 tip, do they have to, this is the question, do they have to split that tip with everybody that worked that day? So it's just theirs? No, because there are other restaurants that if they get a $10,000 tip, they make them split it with everybody that is working. And I'm like, well, damn, we ain't tipping anybody. That's why I was like, okay.
And those things don't happen often, but they happen when people leave $1,000 tips and whatever. And we've gotten to a point now where I think we make them, like, we don't hand them $1,000 on the spot.
Okay.
Because what's happened in the past is somebody had a few cocktails, they come and they tip $1,000, and the next day they call the credit card company and say, I didn't tip them $1,000. And so we make sure
that it goes through.
And so I don't know if we make them wait a day or two, whatever it is, but there's a process for making sure,
that's
and then it all goes directly to them.
Okay.
So the sales people get tips. The grill people, they don't get tips.
They don't typically get tips. They can if you choose to tip a grill operator, but they typically get a hourly wage, and then they get production bonuses based on the volume of the shift and things like that. And if they're in an increase, or there's ways to get bonused on top of their wages.
If you work a certain shift, I think you also get paid more for salespeople and tenure bonus.
Yep.
And usually your cook, I mean, I may be wrong, but don't they make a little more than your waitresses make?
Oh yeah, significant.
So it kind of
wait
balances it out.
Yeah, and there's also opportunities for, you know, we typically have management on the floor.
Right.
Our first shift is kind of 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. The manager, there's someone in management there that whole time. On second and third shift, we don't typically have the manager because they can't work 24 hours a day.
Right.
But we have what's called shift supervisors, and they're typically a grill operator or something with more experience who wants a managerial role, and we pay them a premium to effectively be the on-site manager during second and third shift.
Julia, I don't remember the story behind this, but in some Waffle Houses now, like Valentine's Day has become a big deal. Like one in Athens, Georgia, it's a huge deal wherever UGA is in Athens, Georgia, for those guys. Well, close from out of state. Like I'm talking about like lying down the street. Like I think talk a little bit about how that came to be, and is that like a marketing thing? Or
Yeah,
is it
sure.
like-
So I think it was back in 2008. There was one of our division or district managers was trying to build second shift sales. And so he decided to, you know, kind of decorate the restaurant, kind of make it kind of like more of a big deal for Valentine's Day, and that worked really well. And so now I believe it's every region, so it's not every store that signs up for it, but a lot of them pick their own themes and they kind of, you know, decorate everything. They do specials, stuff like that. You take reservations for it. So it's pretty fun. You know, special desserts, things like that, kind of make it a special kind of
A
occasion.
lot of them set up like photo booths and they'll put white tablecloths out, they'll have candles.
They were pink in Athens this year. Yeah, pink candles.
But I mean, we do, I would say probably about 200 of our restaurants do a Valentine's Day dinner with reservations, multiple seatings.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Greg, graduated
Yeah.
from Georgia State, and then 22-year-old wanted to get into your management training program. What's the process and how much do they need?
So we have recruiting people out in the field. So again, we don't have in the corporate office, we don't have a recruiting team, but they're out in every, kind of an area is typically about 30 restaurants. And so we have recruiting people hiring management folks for those 30-ish restaurants. So, I mean, you can send their resume over to the corporate office and put them in touch with a local recruiter, and they'll bring them into a restaurant and they'll have a kind of sit down and try to figure out what their goals are and see if there's a good fit. So.
Julia, want to tell us a little bit about the next door?
Yeah, absolutely. So next door we have our exhibits. We've got you know, hurricane response. We have associate programs. old menus, old uniforms, all kinds of that stuff. But yeah, if you guys would like to look around here, down the hall's our commissary. Back there, y'all are welcome to come behind the counter, take some pictures and things like that. So yeah, give you guys some time to do that, and then we'll head over next door.
Thank you.
Oh, we don't turn them on, though. If you press that one and the one over there, they talk over each other.
Well, we just finished our Waffle House tour. This is their original location. And of course, because there's a historic marker, I have to do that. And then we'll back up and let you see the whole original location before I go in and try to take some shots of my amazing economics crew.